bookshop, it's the bookshop, it's the bookshop of Beverly Farms.
Howdy, everybody. It is Sam Pfeifle, your host of John Updike's Ghost, your favorite little podcast about reading, literature, bookstores, and all things, live music related. We are joined today, as always, by the co-owner of the bookshop at Beverly Farms, my co-host and my sister, Miss Hannah Harlow. How are you doing, Hannah?
Oh, great. I had a great weekend with you because I'm also your concert going buddy.
That's right.
Occasion.
Yes, we had a big night out in Beverly on Saturday night. Went to the Cabot Theater to see Shovels and Rope. That was very exciting. Hannah does not like the name of the band, but she did enjoy the band itself.
You think they're great?
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I just struggle with their name a little bit.
I like Shovels and Rope. The world famous Grassholes cover one of their songs, so it was very exciting to see them perform that song. And the Cabot Theater, if you have not been to it in Beverly, I'm sure you have if you're listening to this podcast, but if you are spread around the wide world and want to know a great little theater to see a band in, you should go to the Cabot Theater. It was a spectacular venue. I loved it.
Very nice.
All right, so let's get to our agenda for today. I have 3 books that I'm going to talk about. They're all brand new. First, I'm going to talk about, I'm not sure about the order yet. I reserve the right to change it. But I'm talking about a book called A Short Walk Through a Wide World, a debut novel by Douglas Westerbeke that comes out on Tuesday. So it's actually going to be the Tuesday following this podcast. Then I'm going to talk about Carys Davies' Clear, which comes out on April 2nd. So it'll already be out by the time you hear this. And then I'm going to wrap up with a little about Lee Bardugo's The Familiar, which just says April 2024. I'm not sure the exact date. This also comes out on the 9th. So it's just brand new books.
Wow, look at you.
Now, what are you going to be talking about?
I'm going to be talking about one newish book called Rainbow Black by Maggie Thrash. It came out a couple weeks ago. And then I'm going to talk about an old book called Stormfront by Jim Butcher.
Stormfront.
Yes.
Don't go to the Stormfront website. Sketchy things happen.
Okay.
It's like a neo-Nazi site. Don't go there.
Yikes. Okay, that
I'm
definitely
kind of
is not what we're talking about.
They chose that name. That's a little sketchy. We can talk about that when we get to it.
Well, we can talk about that. Maybe. I don't think the book's a front for anything.
Okay.
Seems
well,
not Nazi-ish.
Okay. Well, finishing up our agenda, we'll also at the end talk about the biggest weekend in Bookshop of Beverly Farms history that is coming up at the end of April. So you are not going to want to turn this podcast off before you hear about that big, giant weekend of awesomeness.
So big.
Also, maybe you're listening to this on YouTube. Maybe you're listening to it on whatever streaming service you prefer. YouTube is our fastest growing platform now.
It is. Very exciting.
Very
Who
exciting.
knew?
Yeah. And so, should you be interested in sharing or commenting or just, clicking one of those like buttons or whatever it is that happens on any of these podcasts.
Follow, subscribe, share with a friend.
Fantastic.
We'd love to see it.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to our agenda. You want to talk about Stormfront?
Let's talk about Stormfront first.
That was my German accent right there. Stormfront.
Okay, that was tough to hear, but got it. So
what is Stormfront? I don't know what it is.
I had a customer in, we were chatting, we had a very nice conversation. He was clearly he was browsing the sci-fi fantasy section. I believe he ended up buying A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik and Piranesi by Susanna Clark were my recommendations for him after chatting.
Fantastic.
And at some point he said, have you read the Harry Dresden Files? And I said, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he was like, he just loved this series.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. So I went and ordered myself the first one in the series called Stormfront. This is by Jim Butcher. Mm-hmm. And the premise is that Harry Dresden is a wizard who is a private investigator in Chicago. So it's kind of a mashup of like a noir mystery and a fantasy series.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we've got magic, but we have like hard-boiled detective fiction.
Exactly.
I like
and I
it.
think it sounded pretty fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah. I will say 2 negatives.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to start out here. Is one, it's only available in a mass market format, which I personally hate. They just find them like, I'm just constantly trying to like break the spine of the book, which makes me feel
bad. It's kind of rough
bad.
on the hands sometimes.
It's rough on the hands.
I know.
And it's so tiny.
Hard to see
Anyway,
without the old glasses, that's for sure.
it sure is. Second is, while it is a really enjoyable, fast-paced read, the mystery is interesting. I didn't see things coming. The magic, it's like a great world-building magic situation.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like tawdry sex in it. I mean, like there's actually see any of the sex.
Wait, how can it be tawdry if I don't see it?
Right. I just, everything kind of feels a little tawdry. Maybe that's like the noirness of it, but it's just like, well, Harry is, I've been told many times in the book, a gentleman, and he is very kind.
Mm-hmm.
And he is not disrespecting women necessarily, and he's not treating them poorly in any way. It's just that like every woman he encounters, he notices their bodies.
Right.
Like,
What
in
is
detail.
what is the contemporary setting here? Is it like now? Is it the 50s? What is it?
No, it's, well, contemporary for whenever this came out. So, it was published a little while ago now. So, 2000.
Do people have cell phones?
No.
No cell phones.
No.
Pre-cell
No cell
phone.
phone. It's pre-cell phones.
Okay.
He's using
societal
payphones.
norms it's using payphones. So we're like,
so it's probably like the 80s, maybe. Or
it could be early 90s.
Could be early 90s.
Are there any like musical references? Do we have any touch points to like real?
There are pop culture references. I can't really remember any right now, but like, we're talking about like 80s, 90s.
Okay,
like
80s, 90s.
And sorry, just to finish my tawdry thought.
Mm-hmm.
There's like all the crimes involved. Like they're with sex workers, or they're like the result of orgies, and like
orgies.
Like you getting people, the bad wizard guys get their power from lust, which is why they need to have orgies. So there's just like a lot of like, the
entire magical system is wrapped up in tawdriness. I see.
Yes, and like
that does not sound like it's for me.
There's one scene where like Harry's in the shower when his house gets attacked by a demon. So he fights the demon with while nude. And it's like this extended scene when there's like a woman in his house. And so he's protecting her and he's naked the whole time. And it's just a little bizarre.
That is bizarre. Yeah. Seems like there's a little wish fulfillment going on here. Like, what if I got magical powers from being a horny dude? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. It's all a little like, I guess this book is for dudes.
Right. Well, yeah,
Yeah. So it's like a lot of good elements to it. I would say I'm probably not going to continue to read the series.
I hear that. It's interesting. I've heard of Harry Dresden. I see it mentioned sometimes in fantasy forums and whatnot. That's probably not for me. I don't mind a little sex, but
It's British. Like I read tons of books with like lots of sex in it. Sorry, there's these romance novels that I'm reading, and there's
I'm fine with sex in the books. Yeah.
I just want it to be sex positive, right? And like female positive.
And not gratuitous.
Right.
So it's a good transition. Yeah. It's a good transition into a short walk through a wide world. Which again,
I can't wait to hear why.
Written by this dude, Douglas Westerbeke, right? Dude.
Yes. Dude.
And the main character is a woman, starts out as a 9-year-old girl, and then goes all the way to the end of her life. So it's this one woman's life. And so first, the premise of the book is unveiled in the first couple of chapters and even on the back. And the premise is this girl at 9 years old has this little mystical encounter, and it causes her to have what she describes as a disease, whether I don't think it is a disease by any definition of that, but they call it the disease the whole time, whereby if she remains in a place for longer than 2 or 3 days, she begins to have very bad pain and like bleeding from orifices.
Ew.
Right?
Okay.
There's lots of like bloody noses, bloody ears, blood out of the eyes.
Ew.
Blood.
Eyes I can't handle.
Lots of
Anything
smearing
else?
of blood. Like there's many scenes that involve the smearing of blood on things, staining of things with blood. So, you know, the whole time I'm trying to figure out like what we're doing. And so then her whole life,
So she's on the move.
She has to keep moving. So she ends up walking the whole world. Basically, she's, constantly getting to places and meeting people, and there's a little encounter, and then she's got to leave. These people are staying. She's got to leave.
So there's no other real like consistent characters except for the main character.
Correct. Yep. These characters, it's like
coming up.
Right. And so, I mean, the setup makes sense from like I took a writing class standpoint, right? Like I have the central problem, which is this girl has this, disease. She's got to solve it by moving. Oh, nice. I can have all these little set pieces as my chapters. I'm in Timbuktu. I'm in wherever, I meet this person, right? So, good try, Douglas, or whatever. But like there's no real plot, right? Like there's no actual. So the problem does not get solved, right? So in a classic sense, like there is no climax, there is no denouement, right? We just kind of come to an understanding, right? Like the payoff is very poor. Yes.
Can I ask a question? So there's sometimes writers talk about the outside problem and the inside problem. Like the outside problem is this like disease that she has that she has to walk around. But the inside problem would be like, she can't make connections with other people. She's never really going to be able to love or whatever.
Like kind of
so does she solve that?
There's like this sort of like coming to an understanding, right?
Oh.
Understanding is quite literally, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey.
Wow.
Right? Like that's the whole book, right? Is that like, it's about living your life. It's about seeing new things. It's about,
maybe that could have been a short story.
It could have been like 50 pages, right? Like 100%, give me this little device, go for, but so the reason it was a segue is because she has these like encounters with men where they're having sex for some reason, right? And like each time I'm like, okay, we're having sex right now, really, and like, because every time she has only known them for like 30 minutes,
right?
Because that's the whole premise, right? So
she should have sex though.
Problem, but like each time I'm just like, okay, I guess we're having sex now because
again
she has found love. All right, okay, all right, and each time it's just like, I don't know. There's
is it tawdry?
One more. No, there's not. It's not tawdry. It's always
just kidding.
Whatever. I'm like, then they loved.
Yeah.
But I think there needed to be like one more run through for like interior consistency, because there'll be times where she'll be like, she remembered all of her past loves. And I'm like, no, because it's, goes in one direction time wise. And last time it was her first love, right? And this is the second one, right? So are we skipping over a bunch? Like, were there other loves? Because I thought the last one was the first, like there's just like, couple times where I'm just like, I don't know if you're even following your own thread. And then there is this like interior like mysticism, which lo and behold, do you know what Doug's job is? He's a librarian. And guess what the interior magic is? Oh, there's a magic library. Didn't see that coming at all. And the magic library is just a place you walk through, and all the books are only pictures. There's never any words. It's always drawings for reasons that are really not made clear. We never meet the people from behind the library. We never know why the library exists. Like there's so much mystery left, which, okay, sometimes I'm fine with that. But I'm like, this is the whole thing, right? So like,
this is the answer to why this is happening.
The thing is like, she gets this magical device. She encounters this magical place. She, uses this magical device. We never get any insight whatsoever into who is behind this magic, why this magic exists, what the, grander purpose of this magic. Was she chosen for a reason? Are there other people that will be chosen? We don't know any of those things. And then the way it ends up is just like, oh, then she lived and found this guy. And it was home for a reason that's not clear. She's been there for 3 days. So it's just I found it deeply unsatisfying. I read the whole thing, right? I didn't
Right, you did read the whole
I
thing.
didn't get bored with it. Like I thought the writing was fine. Each individual set piece is like, okay, this is cool. She has, lo and behold, little, homoerotic, encounter where she falls in love with a girl too. Turns out she's bi because you're not allowed to, just be normal. Not whatever. You're not, every book now
You
has to
didn't
have
mean to say normal.
normal, but every book now has to have some sort of sexual awakening where it turns out you're bi or whatever. I'm gonna get to my other books.
I have a book I just read that I wasn't going to talk about yet because it comes out at the end of May,
Right.
which is like an excellent book. But my issue, I keep reading these books about women who are like angry and like all messed up, and then they have this
Epiphany.
in the form of a like gay love affair.
Right.
And it's like, oh, they were just gay. That was their problem. And now everything's fine. And I'm just like, oh, it's becoming uninteresting just because it keeps being the answer. And I'm like, I'm fine with everyone being gay, but I just feel like maybe there are other reasons women are unhappy.
Right. And maybe, I just when I say normal, I mean people's sexual orientation does not dominate their intellectual life all the time, right?
Right.
A lot of people come to the realization of who they want to have sex with early in their life, and then they don't really spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Right.
Whether they're gay or not gay or whatever, it doesn't dominate who they are and the story of their life.
Wait, I have a segue.
Okay,
now.
segue. So anyway, Short Walk Through the Wide World, I think it's an okay, good novel. I think if you like fantasy, it's a little bit cozy. I think a lot of people will enjoy touring the world. There's a lot of cool stuff about Africa and Asia and all these places. Lots of cool settings, mysticism, whatever. I just found the story unsatisfying. Yeah.
My segue is to Rainbow Black by Maggie Thrash, where the main character is gay. Her name's Lacey, and her parents have said say to her at some point no, we've known you're gay since you were 2. Everybody's fine. We are very accepting of you. And she's fine with who she is, and it's just part of her character,
right? And
it's great, right?
Yes.
That's
She's
not
just partnered with another woman, and that's just part of the story, not a problem.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, Rainbow Black just came out. It's great. It's good.
Who is the author again? Sorry.
Maggie Thrash.
Maggie Thrash. Great.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Is that her real name, you think?
Oh, it's a great question. It's a good name. The first half of the book is set in late 80s, early 90s, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the summer of the Satanic Panic. So we have a few introductory scenes, but basically the main action of the first half of the book is that there was a satanic panic in the whatever, I think it was a buildup, but in the summer of 1990, Lacey's parents, who run a daycare, get arrested
for being Satanists.
Ooh. And
did this happen? This was a thing.
This was a thing, apparently.
Oh, okay.
It was. I mean, apparently it was a huge thing. I don't really remember.
I was 15, I guess. I don't know if I would be aware of that. Okay.
So vague. It
it's
doesn't sound
sort of historical reference that is real. Okay.
Yes. And there's a lot of great, Lacey's older sister, looks and dresses like Debbie Gibson. And there are a lot of great, 80s, 90s references.
Yeah, sure.
But the parents are arrested because a lot of the kids that they've cared for over the years are resurfacing repressed memories of being, sexually abused by the parents.
That's
right.
Bad. Yeah.
Right. All these psychiatrists or whoever, surfacing these memories. So there's a lot of suspect things happening. are these kids really remembering things,
Right. Or have
right?
they been trained to believe that their
Yes.
parents have sexually assaulted them or whatever?
Yeah, or like one kid came out and then all these other kids are just kind of like joining in the
too.
hysteria. It's like a little witch hunty,
Right. Yeah.
And Lacey is like, had very loving relationships with her parents. She's like, I never witnessed any of this. She's kind of just very steadfast.
So she's a student at this daycare.
No, she's just, the daycare's in their home, right? She's a high school student. She's a high school student when this happens. So her sister comes home to take care of her while her parents are in jail.
Right.
So then there's like, you get the trial where she's like the kind of lone witness defending her parents. And I'll just leave it there and say that then the second half of the book, you jump like, 15 years in the future. And Lacey is now living in Quebec with her partner and, just trying to like run away. She has run away from everything that has happened and is trying to.
She's literally left the country.
She's changed her name. She's just trying to leave everything behind because things got really, really wacky there.
What so you say that the, sexual orientation is not key to the plot. Is the rainbow not referring to LGBTQ rainbow, or what's the rainbow black?
It is. I wouldn't say it's not unkey to the plot. I would just say it's not like there's a lot of coming of age stuff, but it's never like this epiphany of like, oh, I'm gay. And like now, whatever, like she's just always known who she is.
Gotcha.
There is a trans character who's really great and is one of a main character who's also central to the plot. The daycare was called like Rainbow Kids. So the rainbow has like multiple references.
Okay. That makes more sense. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's great if you love, lots of 80s, 90s references and then like
it's
a good
literary
murder mystery. Yeah, it's literary.
And Maggie has written other books. First book?
She's written another book, which I have not read. And that was it was a graphic memoir called Honor Girl.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no. And some novels for young adults. It says Rainbow Black is her adult debut novel.
Gotcha.
Right. So she's had a memoir and some YA books, it sounds like.
Ooh, so I have a couple of potential segues there. I will go with staying on the LGBTQ revelation. Okay. So this book, Clear, one of the books that you sent to me by Carys Davies. I like the premise a lot. Okay. So
I like the premise a lot too.
Right. And so like I was into this book to start out. I will say that. Okay. So the premise is we're in Scotland in the 1800s, and there's two main historical things that we are encountering. One is the creation of the Free Church, which is where a bunch of ministers left the church in Scotland to found their own church because the Catholics, or I don't know, the main church that was in Scotland at the time, Christian, whatever, the people who were funding the church were the landowners, and they had control over who would be the minister. So if the minister started like preaching anything too populist, the landowners would just gank that guy. And so they didn't feel free to preach as they wanted. So like 450 of them, like half of the church, all decided to found this new church, which meant they had to go, self-fund, get their congregations to find a place, blah, blah, blah. So we have this, like, the main character is this minister who's one of the guys who has left the church. He's trying to figure out where he's going to get any money from. Second big historical thing is this clearance where all landowners decided that the peasants living on their land were actually more trouble than they were worth. And so they kicked them all off, forced them to move into like towns and cities and whatnot, and gave all of their land over to sheep farming, which was they would just let the sheep roam and then, bring in some guys and shear the sheep, and they made a ton of money on wool, apparently, right? Mm-hmm. So these come together when this minister, to make some money, agrees to go kick a dude off of an island. He's the last guy living on this one island. the landowner is kind of scared of him. So he's like, I'll pay you 16 pounds if you go get rid of this dude for me.
Wow. Right. So I love this premise because I just love the setting, right? We're on like an island with one person living on it.
Exactly. And it's great. Like all of the like, I'm on a boat going to the island and the heath and the mounds and the desiccated buildings. Great job. Carys did a really great job. Loved all that, right?
Yep.
So minister guy gets to the island. First thing that happens to him is he falls off a cliff and seriously injures himself. And the only dude, setting up the problem, who lives on the island, finds him and has to care for him and nurse him back to health.
Right.
Again, I'm still for this. Even better. And so it turns out this is the, when you read the acknowledgments at the end, this is why she wrote the book. Found this book. Actually, I don't know if Carys is a man or a woman. They found this translation of old Orkney language in a library. And so another cool part of this book, which I really enjoyed, was minister dude learning this old Orkney language so that they can communicate. And there's lots of like, great about how he's learning this language. Still fine, all great, right? And even better, there's a wife, Mary, who is the minister's wife, who's like, I'm worried, what's going on? He should have been back by now, all that great. Until the two dudes end up fucking. Like, and it's just like, why? Like, from the book, I don't care if I ruin it. It's a nice short book. You should read this book. It's like a cool little literary thing. You learn a lot about Scotland. At the end, right? Again, we are in the 1800s. This dude is a minister. The literal end of the book is the wife being like, why don't we just live as a trio? We'll just be polyamorous and like, no problem. The end. Like
on the island?
End. No, they're going to move back to wherever town because they got to clear this island off for sheep or whatever. But like, so there's all this great like build up, and it feels like this old timey movie that moves really slow and like, I see them go off to like get some fish and boil their hair. And then it's like, and then they banged and then they lived as a trio, the end. And it's like, wow, this dude is a minister of the church, right? Like,
yeah.
I guess he fell in love with this dude over the course of 3 weeks being nursed back to health, but like, we're going to get naked in this hovel and have sex? Like what? And it's just ridiculous. And then Mary shows up and, she's like, Mary just knew that they had banged. And it's like, what?
What? How would she know?
I know.
Why would you suspect?
They were in love. They were in love. The way that he cared, the way that they cared for each other, she knew. And so she was like, why doesn't he just move home with us and we'll all live together? You minister, you're trying to found a church and you're just going to be like, yeah, and this dude lives with us. It's no big deal. We're just bros. It's just like, it's like, it's bringing this contemporary lens back to this historical time and acting like, this is totally normal. Yeah, they just bang.
Like wanting to give a happy ending where like normally we would be like, this is going to be a tragic ending, actually.
Right.
Like they don't get to live together.
Yeah. And it's also like actually like really self-aware in some ways. Like at some point, she says, being a great reader, he would probably have complained about the fashion beloved by the worst kind of contemporary novelists for inflicting catastrophic and prolonged memory loss on their characters, right? So, like, it's like this self-aware book, like, because for a little while it looked like amnesia was going to be the thing. And she was like, no, I'm just kidding, right? And even has, like, a reference to, like, how that is a hackneyed way of doing things. So it's like, I mean, maybe it's all just like a con, and it's like meant to be like a fun book. And so it's fun at the end, like, bang, it's all good.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very strange that you would go like so hardcore into this language and this history and whatever, and then just be like, then this ridiculous thing that could never have happened. Yay.
Right. Yeah. Well, I have two things. One, I want to give a shout out to, this is very much reminding me of a book called The Colony by Audrey Magee. That came out maybe 2 years ago. And that was much more contemporary. It was set in 1979, but it was about this painter who goes to an island off the coast of Ireland where there are like the last speakers of this like Irish, dialect.
Yeah.
Right. And then like there's another guy who comes who like studies languages, and these two guys are outsiders and they kind of clash.
I remember that book.
Yeah. So that book was great. So if it gives similar vibes in terms of like island and isolation. And
Well, I mean, like, there's so much I liked about it. So it is a woman. Carys Davies' debut novel, West, was shortlisted for the Rathbones Folio Prize.
okay.
She's won lots of things. She was born in Wales, so she, knows what she speaks about. She lives in Edinburgh, Scotland now. So
Wait,
and also it's like fun and short, and like I like banged.
You read it very quickly.
Yeah, no, it's like there was like it was just the end. It was like, are you kidding me? Like why are these dudes banging? Come on.
So this is the book I referenced before. I feel like I have to talk about it now because this is also reminding me of it. So there's a book called The Safe Keep by Yale Vanderwooden, something like that, coming out May 28th. And it is fantastic. Like, I really enjoyed this book. The beginning is this like angry sister, right? Her parents have died. This sister is living by herself in the family home. It is post World War II Netherlands, and her brothers live in the city. She has one brother who, is quietly gay and living with his lover, and everyone, it's kind of like an open secret. And then the other brother is someone who's just like constantly going through girlfriends. So the book opens and she's come into town to have dinner with her brothers and meet the new girlfriend who she hates. But then the brother comes back to her a couple days later and is like, hey, my girlfriend needs to stay with you for a little while. She can't just stay by herself in my apartment. So can you just put her up at the house while I'm traveling? Like on this project, I'm going to be gone for like 3 weeks.
Seems sketch.
Yeah. So the girlfriend moves in and the sister is like, I hate you. It's miserable. And then they, are very quickly, it turns out they're very into each other. And she was being so mean because actually she loved her.
Of course. Yeah.
They're very attracted to each other. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. So then you get into
bang my brother's girlfriend. That's a thing that you do.
It was like, at first as I said, I was annoyed because I just feel like I keep reading these books with that plot line.
Right, yeah.
But then once I was like settled in, I was like, okay, great. And like now they have this like lovely relationship and like they love each other and like how can we figure out how they can stay together? So they're the brothers coming home soon and what are they going to do? And then I have to stop talking about it there because I don't want to give away the rest. There is a big twist and it is great and like people should read the book. But I do feel like it was very similar to to Clear, the book you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like this isolated spot, and then they find love very quickly. They're only together 3 weeks in both cases.
I mean, I get that passionate love affairs are developed in short order, but like this dude, this dude fell off a cliff, broke ribs, broke his ankle, had a big gash in the back of his head, and within like a month, less than a month, he's like banging this dude. That's like
vigorous sex is no problem.
Like, why are we getting naked? I just don't even get it. This is crazy.
I think what we're learning in this podcast is like everyone is maybe way more preoccupied.
Right, but I feel like they, like make them hold hands or something. Like let's have like a touching moment where we realize that we have a deeper than just bros relationship or something. But like it's like, and he noticed the white of his buttocks, and I was like, "What? We're talking about how pale he is. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this?" Like,
my husband was asking me. I was talking about The Safe Keep with him, and he was like, "Oh, so there was lots of like graphic lesbian sex?" Because as I was talking about it, I was like, "A lot of like, like divots and like hollows."
Yes, exactly.
Being explored.
There's lots of exploring of divots and hollows. Yeah, it's like I can just imagine that. I really don't. I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess it's good. People
curves of different
We've talked about this
body parts. Yeah.
Like,
anyway,
it's like, okay, then they banged. All right. Let's go on. Or if it moves the plot forward. Sometimes you can have a sex scene that moves the plot forward, where like they learn something about each other, or something happens, or I don't know. I don't know. My last book is the Lee Bardugo book that you gave
Oh,
me
yes.
at this
I
point.
actually read part of that, like the first 100 pages, maybe.
Right. You didn't dig it, right?
Super into it.
So it's called The Familiar. I actually have not gotten to why it's called The Familiar yet. I'm only about 60 pages in. Mostly I just wanted to read it because you told me you didn't like it. So I was like, oh, what's going on?
Right. I just feel like I'm like, maybe we could have started this book later in the story. I felt like the build-up took kind of a while.
Well, we had to learn that. So it's about a magical scullery maid who uses secret Hebrew songs
Magic,
to do shit. And it's set in the Spanish Inquisition. And so, bad
So I have
to
no
be
idea.
Jewish.
Right. I have no idea why that time period just doesn't super interest me.
It's in Madrid, as we if it was in Maine, it would be called Madrid, but it's in Madrid. There's like some Spanish society that I'm interested in and what it was like when, you had someone who was with the Inquisition in your house and, I better be careful. And
right. Bad time to be Jewish, like you said.
Yeah, bad time to be Jewish and like a lot of like propriety and how the society worked that I'm assuming Lee did a bunch of research into. Or maybe she's
I'm assuming so too, yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting to read now when like it is an interesting time to be Jewish,
Right. Well, it's very timely, I think. It's about like, historical Jewish persecution, I guess. Again, I haven't gotten far enough to know, but I'm assuming with all the, hide the Jewish stuff references that there will be some sort of drama involved with that.
Yeah.
Kind of liked it. I thought like the little magical part.
I don't know why I just like, I don't know why, because it is good, right? And I do like that.
Pretty good so far. I mean,
seems to be a standalone from her, which I also like.
Right.
Like, I don't need another series.
It's not YA,
Right.
I thought like, it's funny because there's like big happy quotes about Hellbent and Ninth House on like the inside of this, which are her other adult novels. I think those were just only okay. Like, especially the second one. I thought the first one was like, okay, cool. But then the second one, I was just like, this is just going on and on forever. And I don't really care anymore. But I have not read a magical book in Spain. I haven't read this sort of Jewish magic system, new and interesting. And what I hope is the stakes stay lower. My biggest problem with the Ninth House and the Hellbent is that the stakes got so high. Like they were literally like battling Satan down in hell and stuff. And I was like, what? We're battling Satan in hell. Like, what is going on here? Like, I just want like a little stake. Now, the world does not have to be at stake.
Right. That's true.
Yeah. But so I'll report back on the finish of that. But it is now the part of the podcast where we tell people about the greatest weekend in bookshop history, which is coming up
certainly
April 26th and 27th.
The biggest weekend of the year. It is a number of things happening all at once. One, it's Independent Bookstore Day, Saturday, April 27th. We are part of the launch of the North of Boston Book Trail. So we are one of 15 stores, I believe, on the trail. Well, there are going to be passports available that weekend. You can get stamps at all the stores you can visit and be entered to win prizes. But there's also a slow and steady option. So you could visit our stores, over the course of weeks and months and still be entered to win in a different prize pack.
It seems unlikely that I'm going to go to more than like 2 or 3 bookstores in a single day. That seems like really aggressive.
Yeah, well, I feel, we're all north of Boston. We're all pretty close to each other, but we in particular are very close to, Copper Dog Books, right? You have 2 bookstores in Beverly, so that should be very doable in one day.
True.
You just kind of keep driving down 127. You're going to hit the Gloucester Bookstore and Dogtown Books in Gloucester. So you got 2 bookstores in Gloucester.
True.
So you could hit 4 in an afternoon.
In one day. Yeah, okay.
No problem.
Right. And you get a stamp to prove that you've been to all these places. Hopefully the passports arrive with us in time because we can pass them out. And then you can, hit all 15. I don't know what there's I don't know, $4,500 in prizes or something.
Yeah, there are gift cards to
Demographic,
be won. There are, all sorts of things. northofbostonbooktrail.com is the website with all the information.
You should go there.
So the other thing I bought for Independent Bookstore Day this year is a prize wheel.
Prize wheel. Yes.
It's
Needed a prize wheel.
You always wish you were on Wheel of Fortune. You could just come to the bookshop on April 27th and you can spin the little wheel and it's going to land on one of the little triangles and you could win stuff like, 10% off, 15% off, maybe 20% off. You could win bookshop swag. There's going to be like
hats.
a nice hats. Corduroy hats are like pretty hot.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun.
Do we have any insight into the bookstore day releases? We get anything cool this time?
Yes, which I will talk about on the next podcast because I forgot to look that up. But
last year I ripped on it because they gave us nothing, so I'm hoping we get something.
Right. I'm happy you're going to be, but we'll find out next time.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
All right.
But the other big thing happening that weekend is the Newburyport Literary Festival.
True.
A little bit about this last time, but there is a full schedule of events. It starts Friday night, April 26th. It runs through Sunday, April 28th. There are dozens of authors who will be in Newburyport. And then on Sunday, there is a, Zoom schedule of events. So even if you don't live here, you can join that way.
I will be leading a panel. Will you be leading a panel?
Just the one with you, not, just,
okay.
Not.
I didn't know if you had another one. Sometimes you have
no.
I'll be leading a panel about awesome baseball books and baseball literature. And then we will be doing a special live edition of John Updike's Ghost with Jamie Attenberg and Steve Allman. We told you about this last podcast, but
yes,
it's just going to get even better.
Excited because we have our regular listeners, and I really hope all of you who listen will join us on the Zoom and webinar. So we can't see your faces, but if you want to see our faces,
so you'll
hear our voices all the time.
Yeah, you'll be able to watch us do this, and you will see even more clearly how we do not edit this podcast in any way.
It's true.
Hannah is currently receiving a UPS delivery because we are live from the bookshop.
Yes, that was UPS.
That was UPS. That's what I said. All right. So we have completed our agenda. Do you have any other items that you would like to discuss?
I don't believe so.
Excellent. Okay. I am going to then call for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'm in school board mode because I only have 3 more business meetings in my school board career. And
very exciting.
It's intoxicating.
Freedom is near.
It's so close. So close. All right, everybody. We will see you next time.